Okay, good morning. I want to welcome everybody to our weekly Nomberg Law Live. This is my favorite part of every week. I get to have interesting conversations with people in their areas of expertise. And my guest and friend today is one such fella, Jay Ruane with the Ruane Law Firm with multiple offices in Connecticut. Jay, thank you for making some time for us today. I'm glad that you be able to spend a little time with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. This is going to be great.
Oh, it's going to be a lot of fun. And guys, whether you know Jay in real life in Connecticut or you know him virtually through social media, he's one of those guys you need to know. You need to follow him. He and another lawyer, Seth Price, host a week. Is it weekly or bi-weekly?
Weekly.
Weekly
It's
show.
yeah, it's weekly. It's at least once a week, sometimes twice a week.
Well, I'm telling you guys, trust me on this, whether you're in the law or a professional, or whatever you do, anything dealing with social media, you need to be following Jay and what his firm does. And we're going to talk a little bit about social media, but we're really going to kind of pivot our topic today. Different parts of the country, different states are in different places when it comes to coming out of the pandemic and what each state's laws are requiring. Jay's up in Connecticut. Of course, I'm in Alabama. And so we're really going to focus on coming out of the pandemic and what that life work balance looks like these days. But Jay, before we jump into those things, please share a little bit about your firm and your practice and what you guys do in Connecticut.
So I run a criminal defense firm in Connecticut, and in the last 5 years or so, maybe 10, we've been starting to pivot also into civil rights work. So that's really where our focus is. We had a general practice firm. We handled some PI in the past, handled some family law, but my passion wasn't with that. And as I aged into this practice, I started to say, let's jettison off the things that I don't feel passionate about and really focus on the stuff that I do. And that comes down to criminal defense, post-conviction cases, as well as the civil rights stuff. And so that's where we are heading our firm, which is kind of nice. My father started the firm years ago. He was a criminal defense lawyer. He did capital penalty, capital death cases. That was his area of practice. I became a DUI lawyer. I developed a reputation around the country, and our young lawyers, I've been very lucky in the last couple of years. We've helped a number of gentlemen get out from on wrongful conviction cases. Two persons convicted of murder, serving, multiple decades. We've been able to walk out of jail, and I've been working on those things. And so now we've got some young lawyers that are doing civil rights work. That's really exciting, and I'm excited about our future and where we're going with it.
Excellent. And that's always great to hear that when a law firm figures out when it should pivot and how to pivot, because if you don't, like anything else in life, you're going to just get stale and become non existent. You're not going to be able to fulfill those things that you want to do in life. But those, thank you for sharing about your firm, Jay. Jay, let's talk a little bit about why. I want to spend about 5 minutes talking about the power of social media before we really
Sure.
get into the meat of our topic. You do such a beautiful job of reaching so many people. You share so much about yourself. What is it? And it may be obvious to people who are watching this, but it's not so obvious to those of us who do this for a living sometimes. What is the importance of social media these days? Because it's an ever evolving and moving target, if you will, to try to reach as many people as you can. What is it that for you guys, what does it mean for social media and its powers?
Well, one of the wonderful things about social media that I think a lot of people miss is that social media is most like traditional legal marketing. Back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, before lawyers could even advertise, lawyers got cases by being well known in their community, by having an expertise that people would seek them out for, and by networking. And in the modern day, right? It used to be people would work 9 to 5, go home at 5 o'clock. You didn't have all these different pulls, kids that are out in the neighborhood. Now we've got soccer leagues and baseball and dance competitions, and you're constantly being pulled in a million different directions.
Yep.
And as a result, we can rely on technology to keep us connected to our community. And that's a wonderful thing if you do it right. I mean, it's not great if you sort of go down these rabbit holes, but you can use social media sort of as a way to reconnect with your local audience, reconnect with your local network, and use traditional marketing techniques that lawyers have used for decades to be able to accomplish that. And so that's how we encourage people to use social media. That's how we do it ourselves.
Well, Jay, it is much probably like your father's experience. Oops, I'm sorry here. My our dad began his practice in South Alabama in the late 60s. And of course, in most states around the country, it was completely forbidden and taboo to do any type of marketing except maybe list your firm in the traditional yellow pages. And then in different states at different parts of the time periods coming forward, some lawyers pushed the envelope and pushed and pushed and pushed, and they may have been sued or they may have had ethics charges brought against them or what or code of professional responsibilities, whatever it is. They were the ones who pushed the bar, and it allowed the rest of us to create our own versions of social media. And while our firm is never, and Dad, who's very much happily retired, will tell you, you're never going to want to see us, our firm, on a billboard or on television. That's just not the style that Dad ever wanted or hopes for us. He's of counsel, and now we kind of educate him on what we do on social, and he sees, like this show that we do. And there's so many different ways to do this these days. And I think that for any lawyer who is now retired and kind of keeps up with what their former firm used to do, it may be a little mind boggling to see, because it does for me, and I'm practicing and doing this every day. But it's so true, the power and the reach of anything that you do on social media. You can just get it right here on your phone 24/7. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, you really, as each law firm has to figure out its voice and not just be spammy and hey,
Right.
pick me. We have all these great case results and things. And I think that's the thing that turns me off as a professional doing this. I don't like to see it when firms yell out, we have settlements of $14 billion. And I don't know, maybe that's just beating the chest too much, but that's just my take on that. Do you see that much in Connecticut, that kind of advertising?
Yes, we do. And, it's interesting because it is, the least effective thing you can do on social media. I mean, think of it like, you go to a cocktail party, right? And you're at somebody's house and there's different groups in different areas of the house and everyone's sort of talking and you're in the kitchen and maybe you're talking about Alabama football, right? And some guy comes walking in and he's Jack Smith. I sell car insurance, auto insurance, life insurance, whatever insurance you need. And he bounces from group to group. And all he's doing is talking about himself, right? Um, Everyone's going to see this guy coming. Then as soon as you can get rid of him or push him out of your group, you're going to push him away. And you're not going to remember him. But if you have a conversation with somebody and you happen to sell insurance and it comes up naturally in the context of the conversation, you might be more inclined to buy from that person. And so that's what I really want to encourage people to do on social media is don't make it all about yourself. Make it about the other people. Find ways to connect with people. We like to say at FirmFlex, my social media agency, that there are four main topics that people like to talk about. It's sports, it's travel, it's food, and it's pets. And you can pretty much connect with anybody on those topics, and make it allow them to talk. And then allow yourself to be a real person, especially for lawyers in your audience, but really for anybody. I mean, even for me, an auto mechanic is intimidating, right? Because I don't know a thing about cars. And so I'm nervous when I go into that auto body shop,
Yes.
because not that I think that the guy's going to rip me off, but, I don't know a thing about it. And it's embarrassing and it's intimidating. And so if that guy can make himself more approachable to me, or that woman who owns, any sort of retail shop, can make herself more approachable to me, and reduce that barrier of nervousness and anxiety, it's going to make me really want to be in business with them. And so that's what you can do with social media.
Oh, it's so true. And of course, you and I could talk for the next couple of hours about the powers of social media and the approach from a person to person standpoint. But we'll save that conversation for maybe the next time you come on the show or we have an
Sure.
opportunity to talk. But guys, I'm talking with Jay Ruane with Ruane Attorneys at Law in Connecticut. They have multiple offices. They do civil rights work. They do a lot of criminal defense work. But Jay also does such a beautiful job with social media. And that's what we've been talking about. But we're going to pivot for the next several minutes because each state around the country is in probably in different levels or different states of becoming or reaching herd immunity. And as such, the governors of each state have created their own rules for the people who live within their states. Governor Ivey here in Alabama just yesterday announced that as of July 6th, all of the current safer apart and emergency state orders that have been going on since last March, over a year, are going to come to a conclusion July 6th. So basically, we're going to be wide open as of then. I'm very thankful, at least through then, the way that she's taken this approach. But we're in Alabama, and in the South, it's a little different. We're a little more open than they are in the Northeast, where Jay is in Connecticut. Jay, currently, where do you guys sit by way of social distancing and maybe state or county city laws? And then what I want to, from there, I want to talk about the emerging out of this pandemic, that work-life balance. You know, we're just now getting comfortable. I say comfortable for the last 15 to 16 months, but where do you see things going from there?
Okay, so let's unpack that because there's a lot there. I
Yeah.
mean, the interesting thing about Connecticut is that, we were one of the first states hit. And our governor really sort of locked down our state in connection with New York and New Jersey because half of Connecticut at least is a suburb of New York City, and so and that's really something interesting, and we'll talk about that briefly. But the reality is that you know ours we're really not open yet. I mean, we've got some semblance of it, but movie theaters, barbershops, and stuff like that are not open yet. Bars aren't open yet in any full degree. They say they announced as of May 19th things are going to be able to be open. Bars will be able to be open, but we'll still have mask mandates, and they don't know when they're going to let that go. But we're also hearing from some employers that they're waiting and they're taking it easy as they start to reopen offices. I mean, our offices in Connecticut have been closed for 14 months now, and we just made the decision that we're going to move into a split session where half the office comes in a couple days a week and the other half. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for one group, Thursday, Friday for the other, and the following week split it off. So we're going to reduce our capacity in our offices. But that, it's you have to find what's comfortable for every person that's involved. And we had some at-risk people in our office that we wanted to make sure that we protected them because our people are very important to our practice. And so we wanted to make sure that we had the right team coming out of this. And coming out of it is something that I think a lot of people have to sort of think about where they are when I go. You talked about my show with Seth where we talk about growing your law firm. And growth is great if that's what you want. And I think the last year has really enabled people, and we've seen a significant portion of the population say, you know what, I'm going to retire now. The older boomer population, they've just decided, hey, you know what, it's time for me to just retire and start to live my life in retirement and enjoy what years I have left. But even for us, who are still actively in the workforce, I think, you don't necessarily have to continue to grow if you're happy with where you are and it allows you to do other things. I know in my neighborhood alone, as I look down the street, I've got 7 guys and women who work in Manhattan. And it's about an hour commute from our home on the train into the city and then down into the financial district where they work. So it's an hour each way every day. And they've had a year where they've clawed back that time. And so they're having breakfast with their kids. They're not leaving in the darkness. They're having dinner with their kids every night, which they weren't able to do before. And a lot of them are saying to me, I was on that hamster wheel, but now that I'm off it, I don't know if I want to get back on it. And I think that's, one of the great things that's coming out of COVID, if you can say there are a few things, is the fact that because it was extended for so long, I think it gave a lot of people an opportunity to say, you know what, I can make changes in my life now that can make the next 10 years or 20 years better long term. And for me at our firm, we decided we are not going to chase other practice areas. We decided early on in COVID, when people started pivoting and added practice groups because they were afraid of the sky was falling, we said, you know what? No, let's focus. Let's do what we do well, and let's have a life outside of this. I really enjoy coaching my kids' baseball team and taking my daughter to dance class, and working from home a couple days a week so I can get on my Peloton and ride that thing, and things that otherwise I would have been up and out the door to get into work and go. And now I have a little better perspective. And I think that's, there's something about with this mythical work-life balance thing that there truly isn't necessarily a balance. And
It's a big reset is what it's
yeah,
been for a lot of people. You're so right. One of some of the things that my brother, who's my law partner, and I figured out, we have a small firm. We actually added 2 lawyers last year, and brought in a practice area that we thought would be beneficial to the public and would complement our practice. And we also have figured out that you don't have to sit behind a desk to practice law as much as you really thought you did. You're right. Working from home has been a change, but we adapted like everyone who is in our profession has had to figure it out. But one of the things that I think has also been reset with those mindsets is your level of comfortability about being in public. We've allowed the members of our firm have, if you want to work at home one day, we've got it all set up for you to work at home, and many have taken advantage of that, and we encourage that. Even we've been doing that actually for 4 or 5 years, and the productivity we have found, in fact, it's not less, it's actually more, because they're working, I wouldn't say longer hours, but maybe deeper into a day. They may take a break during the middle of the afternoon where they wouldn't if they were here, but it gets them recharged. But here's one of the things that I'm reading more and more about is 2 things in the employment setting. What if I work in a state that's at will employment like Alabama is, and my employer is requiring me to have a vaccine? And let's say it's a business, Jay, that interacts with the public. Let's say you work the counter at an auto parts dealership and you're the frontline cashier. Can you be terminated or let go of your job? Well, unless you have a federally protected, and you know this from y'all doing these civil rights types cases, unless it's a legitimate health medical reason or religious based reason, not just because you fear the vaccine or something like that, you can be let go of your job. Now, along those lines, what about where we have the big box stores, the Walmarts, the Targets, the wherever, that are all over the country? And what if, and this is a little bit different than what we're talking about, but they may require you to wear a mask to come into their place of business. But what if state law no longer requires that? There's going to be a lot of this between management and people who are working the counters and working the front doors with the general public. And you just know those issues are coming, and those cases are going to be coming in your door if they hadn't already started sometime soon.
Yeah, it's interesting. I talked to an employment lawyer about the issue of mandatory vaccines, and his response generally was, because the vaccines are only approved under emergency use authorization, that an employer can't really require them because they are not officially sanctioned, I guess, as regular vaccines. But once they are regular vaccines, it's something that an employer can do. And what I think at least I'm hearing is that a lot of restaurants up here, because people are anxious about other people breathing on their food and that type of thing, is that they're just making masks part of their standard uniform.
Mhm.
And so, hey, folks, our uniform is a blue shirt and a mask.
Yeah.
And so I think you're going to see that more and more. And it may be in some, maybe the higher end places,
Mhm.
that type of thing. But there's definitely some changes coming out of COVID. I mean, I know if you travel in Asia, a lot of people wear masks all the time. It's just normal. And I think there might be some normalization of that. And of course, everyone's got to, make their decisions on their own. We've got the CDC saying that you don't need to necessarily wear a mask if you're vaccinated and you're outdoors and away from people. But my little league up here in Connecticut is still requiring me to wear a mask when I'm outside on the pitcher's mound pitching to my 7-year-olds.
Mhm.
And we are. I mean, I'm not close to them at all, but I
Yeah.
still have to wear a mask when I'm pitching and I'm outside, even though CDC. So that's part of the problem. There's a lot of opinions and a lot of rational science on both sides on some of these issues here, and you're going to get conflict no matter what.
Yeah, you're going to get conflict no matter what. One of the things that I have enjoyed, our restaurants in our state have slowly elevated the um, attendance permission, the people who come to eat in the restaurants. But early on, and this is one of the things that I really like, is more and more restaurants have adopted outdoor dining. And I truly, I'm just now getting back into restaurants inside. I have truly enjoyed having all of these outdoor experiences. In fact, the footprint of downtown Birmingham, there's many restaurants, and almost all of them now have outdoor dining. And in fact, they've closed down on certain weekends, they'll close down certain drive through streets and just made it foot traffic. And I'm really
Wow.
hoping that has caught the attention of our mayor and others, that I would love for some of these streets to just be pedestrian traffic and get rid of some of the car lanes. But that's another day. But I think talking about some of the things that have been beneficial or been good to come out of this is maybe they're rethinking some of those experiences for the public. And Jay, we've got just a few more minutes. Let's talk about, to the extent that you want to share. I know you've got a bunch of little ones in the house. You're trying to practice law in the house. You're trying to exercise in the house. And how, from a balance of now trying to get out of the office, I mean, getting out of the house and back into somewhat of a routine at your brick and mortar locations in different parts of the state, that's going to that's going to be tricky with the kids back in school and you guys used to your new routine that has evolved. How is that going to play out, or is that evolving as we speak?
Well, I think it's always going to be an evolution. And one of the things that I really reflected on over the last couple of years, and especially in the last 14 months, is this concept of work life balance.
Mhm.
And everyone thinks that balance means that things sort of break out evenly across the board. So, 8 hours to sleep, 8 hours to work, 8 hours for your family, that type of thing. And in reality, balance is boring. Nobody goes to Disneyland to ride the tram around the parking lot, which doesn't go up or down, sort of stays the same pace,
Yeah.
that type of thing. They go for Space Mountain, right? They go for the highs and the lows and the speed. And so, what I really am trying to get to is a position of work life engagement, knowing that there are going to be times where I have to be fully invested in my work, where I'm working 60, 70 hours in a week on a particular topic. I want to also, be as fully engaged with my family when I am not with my work, when I am with my family, and I want to give them as much engagement, and also to myself. I need to find time to fully engage with my own personal health and my mental well-being and that type of thing. And instead of just sitting on the couch and letting days pass by, I want to avoid trying to chase this mythical balance, and instead find engagement in whatever I am actively in, and then make sure that there is sufficient of all of my categories. So my personal life, my family life, my work life, my social life. I want to make sure that I'm devoting enough time to each, and when I'm in it, I am fully vested.
That's such a meaningful thing for you to say that. And along with what I'm calling the big reset, resetting your, not necessarily your values, I don't mean that, but maybe your priorities, or figuring out how you can be more efficient, whereas it may used to take you, and that maybe that just comes with maturity and practicing law a little bit longer, and having some of those experiences. But there's so many ways to emerge out of this pandemic, whether it's your personal life or your professional life or whatever it is. You can kind of recreate yourself a little bit. You can get rid of some of those things that you didn't like about yourself, your practice, whatever. And I just hope that people have taken advantage of that. But a lot of times, and again, most people will only show you, for example, on Instagram, those great Instagram photos. They're never going to show you the crappy ones, or the
Right.
where they're arguing with the photographer. That's a bad angle or whatever. But you don't see that the behind the scenes things. I just hope that people are figuring out those behind the scenes things and are being able to put forth their best efforts and enjoy life a little bit more, settle down or calm down a little bit, maybe not as stressful. Gosh, we've been doing this 16 months, and we still have more months to go. And as we conclude here, Jay, and I'm just kind of rambling, I really want to hear more from you than from me, of course. But what two or three things would you suggest or recommend to professionals coming out of the pandemic in the upcoming weeks and months? And you've probably hit on some of that already, but what are some things to maybe take into consideration as they're trying to figure out that proper balance for themselves?
So here's a funny story. Every other year, my family goes down to South Carolina, Isle of Palms,
Oh,
gets a
love
beach
that place.
house, and we do a big family reunion on my mother's side. About 100 of us all together, and all my mother was one of 7 children, so they're all kids, grandkids, that type of thing. I think my kids are in a class of like 45 kids under 20, so they get to play with all their second cousins, and they have a blast. And the interesting thing about that is every year we go and every family sort of takes pictures on the beach, and that becomes your Christmas card picture, right? So 2 years ago, we were down at the beach, and we were having our Christmas card picture the same time my cousin Andrew was having his family's Christmas card picture taken. My cousin Rob had his family there, and they were taking my cousin Laura. So it was funny. We each had photographers with us, and we were all in the general area of each other, right? And so we're trying to set up to take the picture, and every father is yelling at the kids to get in the right space. Every kid is crying. They're complaining about the bugs on the sand, or that they sat on a shell and now they stepped on a shell and their foot hurts. And inevitably, all 4 of these families are going through the same torture trying to get that one nice Christmas card picture that you can send to all your friends and your family. And fast forward 6 months later, I get the pictures, and you can see, the one, everyone's smiling, and it's a beautiful picture, and the sun setting, that type of thing. And I said to my wife, I said, I remember that day. And she goes, oh yeah, our kids were terrible trying to get that picture done. I'm like, yeah, they were. I said, but everybody's was. But now look at the pictures. You wouldn't see that in these pictures. You wouldn't see the tough times in these pictures, because there's a natural tendency of us to just put out the good stuff in social media, and put out the good stuff to our friends. What we all have gone through in the last 14 months is the bad stuff, right? Where we were separated from the ones we loved, where we weren't able to do the things that we love, where we lost the people that made an impact on our lives, and that type of thing. But one thing is that we have all gone through it. And so, yes, you can have a smile on your face, but recognize you've now got something that in common with everybody. Absolutely everybody. And if nothing else, you can form that common ground to develop deeper relationships. And that's really what it's all about. Because, at the end of the day, no matter if what you believe in spiritually, religiously, that type of thing, there is a place in everyone's heart that you carry on the people who have impacted your lives forever. And it's a wonderful thing to be able to share with others your life, your experiences, and just be open and honest with each other, and you can learn great things and really contribute to everybody across the way.
It's so very true. This is would ultimately be a year and a half to 2 years experience, or maybe the rest of our lifetime experience. I don't know. Everyone's experiences are a little bit different, but it is a commonality that we'll all have together, good, bad, or indifferent. But the other thing that you said that is so important is trying to cut everybody a little bit of slack. Everybody is on different planes dealing with this, but we're all dealing with it. And maybe that's my big takeaway from our talk. And I try to continue to do a better job of just saying, look, they've been through something as well. Maybe my experience is not as bad as theirs, or vice versa, but just being decent to each other is so important, pandemic or not.
Right.
But Jay, I hope that your family gets to go back to the Isle of Palms again this year, and that things slowly are opening up all around the country. I want to thank you for your input and your experience in sharing your thoughts about the pandemic, social media, and just being kinder to other people. So thank you very much for spending some time with us.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. We're scheduled there to be there on June 19th for 2 weeks, and I cannot wait. So I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Well, I hope that those days come quickly and that your time there is well spent and have great weather. But guys, as we do, oh, and I put the link to Jay's firm's website in the show notes. So please reach out to him about whatever it is that resonated with you from Jay today. But as we do every Tuesday, Nomberg Law Live, we try to bring interesting conversations with people in their areas of expertise. And if you didn't hear it today from Jay, then you're missing out. So please, thank you. Thank you for those who watched us live and who may watch us later on. We'll be back next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Pacific with another conversation on Nomberg Law Live. Y'all continue to be safe. Have a good week.